The history of the territory of Israel is tied to the history of the area called the Levant. While it was occupied by descendants of Abraham, the first kingdom was established under Saul, as reported in the book of Samuel. 1 Samuel 8 verse 4, Then all the elders of Israel gathered themselves together, and came to Samuel unto Ramah. 5, And said unto him, Behold, thou art old, and thy sons walk not in thy ways, now make us a king to judge us like all the nations. 1 Samuel 10 verse 24, And Samuel said to all the people, See ye him, Saul, whom the Lord hath chosen, that there is none like him among all the people. And all the people shouted, and said, God save the king. The map below indicates the area under Saul's kingdom. The later division of Israel from Judah is shown, and note the territory of the Philistines whom Yahweh commanded the children to destroy from the land. Also, keep in mind the other peoples who were present when the children originally arrived from the cradle. When Solomon fell away, the kingdom was divided into two. 1 Kings 11 verse 11, Wherefore the Lord said unto Solomon, Forasmuch as this is done of thee, and thou hast not kept my covenant and my statutes, which I have commanded thee, I will surely rend the kingdom from thee, and will give it to thy servant. 12 Notwithstanding in thy days I will not do it for David thy father's sake, but I will rend it out of the hand of thy son. 13 Howbeit I will not rend away all the kingdom, but will give one tribe to thy son for David my servant's sake, and for Jerusalem's sake which I have chosen. The divided kingdom is shown to the right. Note that Philistia is still not under the children's direct control. Also, the city of Samaria is identified and becomes a major center of the northern kingdom, Israel. As seen previously, the one tribe that composed the southern kingdom of Judah, with the tribe of Judah, was the tribe of Benjamin. Then, about 200 years later, the Assyrian came to power and eventually defeated and captured the northern kingdom, Israel. The forcible deportation of the 10 tribes, the lost sheep, is shown on the map below. First, the northern territory was deported, and then the southern territory of Samaris was deported. After the Assyrian was surpassed by the Babylonian, the southern kingdom of Judah was conquered, and the people were forcibly deported to Babylon, as shown below, green. A very important event is also indicated on the map to the right, the resettlement of non-Jacobians from Babylonia during the rule of the Assyrian. Writings in the book of Ezra relate the return of Judah, and any other remnants of peoples from the kingdom, to Judea, however. There is no chronicle of the return of the northern kingdom, as a people, as a whole, from their captivity to Samaria. They are the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Then, out of the Babylonian Empire, rose the Persian Empire, including the Medes. A map of the Levant during this time is shown below, left. The area formerly occupied by the children of the 10 tribes is now labeled Samaria. It is not the northern kingdom, albeit there were no doubt remnants present along with Judeans, including Levites, and other peoples. It is important to know, however, that the people of the house of Judah are present in Judea. And Philistia is still not under the direct rule of Judea. Recall that Judea did receive some autonomy from Persia. Subsequently, Alexander, the great Macedonian, conquered the Persian Empire and more. This led to the Hellenization of the Levant, and the people referring to Philip as Zeus during the Christian era. After the Greek Empire was divided, there was a period of semi-autonomous rule of Judea by children of the house of Judah. Another map, below, shows the situation. And now we see that Philistia, Gaza, has been conquered by the Judeans along with territories on the east bank of the Jordan River. Then, as most may know, the Romans invaded and overthrew the Greeks and everyone else in the Levant. Eventually, they destroyed Jerusalem and ended Israel as a nation. A map below shows the Roman-controlled territories in the Levant. After some time, the Roman Empire broke into the Holy Roman Empire in the west and the Byzantine Empire in the east. The Byzantines controlled the Levant when Islamists invaded circa 634 AD. Thus began the Arab-Muslim occupation of the Levant, where the Judeans and Philistines, plus other peoples, resided. There was no Arab possession of the Levant for, at a minimum, over 2.5 millennium after it was occupied by other peoples. Various Muslim groups occupied the Levant after this initial invasion. 1. Umayyad Caliphate. 2. Abbasid Caliphate. 3. Fatimid Caliphate. The followers of the Fatimid Caliphate seized the Levant, but the Abbasidians retained control of other territories, as shown above, right. After the Arab invasion, the third and fourth occupiers of the Levant were not Arabic but were African and Egyptian. They were, however, Muslims. 4. Ayyubid Sultanate. 5. Mamluk Sultanate. The Mamluk Sultanate was composed primarily of Egyptian slaves who had been freed. By this time, the Arabic language and Islam were well established over a large area, but again, they were not Arabs, albeit there was no doubt an Arab population among them. Their extent of control is shown in the map below. So, by tracing the powers in control of the Levant, the Arabs occupied it for roughly 1 millennium compared to 2.5 and likely more for other peoples, including the children. The Arab occupation, with control, ended when the Ottoman Turks established the Ottoman Empire and conquered the Levant. 6. The Ottomans were Turkish, not Arabic or Philistines. Counting from 2000 BC, Arabs occupied, as conquerors, the Levant for about 25% of the time, and recall, it is not their homeland in the same sense as the children migrating from the cradle and establishing the Levant as a homeland. The Arab homeland is the Saudi Peninsula. The Ottomans occupied the Levant until the British Empire and its allies defeated them, a result of World War I. The Levant area is referred to as the Syrian provinces, on the map to the left, which also shows that the Turks occupied the Levant for about 400 years. It is the defeat of the Ottoman Empire that brings us to the modern era of the geopolitical situation in the Levant. According to one source, the British caused an uprising within the Ottoman-occupied Arabian Peninsula by promising Arabs territory in the Levant if they helped defeat the Ottomans. The source provides the map below showing the territories controlled by the British and the Ottomans. It also shows the Arab the British recruited. In reality, once the Turks were defeated, Britain and France split the Levant region, creating mandated territories, below. The betrayal of the Arabs combined with another event, the Balfour Declaration. As seen previously, talks to establish a homeland for dispersed, Yehudim, had been underway for some time before the defeat of the Ottomans. In 1917, the Balfour Declaration spurred the immigration of Yehudim to the Levant from around the world. The pertinent text of the document is also supplied by the previous source. It is necessary to understand that the Levant had not been under Israeli or Arabic control for some time and that the Arabs invaded the Levant in the past, meaning it is, and was, not their homeland. However, the promise of territory and the betrayal of that promise led to resentment among the Arabs. At this point, the etymology of the word Palestine should be understood. The name Palestine comes from ancient Greek Palastiani, pi alpha lambda alpha iota sigma tau nu eta, which itself is derived from an Aramaic term for a region on the Mediterranean coast inhabited by the Philistines. These early references in Egyptian, Assyrian, and Greek texts, including Herodotus, used the term to describe the southern coastal area near Egypt, the territory of the Philistines not Arabs. The Romans later used the name, and after the failed Jewish revolt of 132 CE, Emperor Hadrian renamed the Roman province Judea to Syria Palestina, incorporating it into the Greek term. The word had never been used to describe Arabs. The Balfour Declaration and the Arab hostility toward Britain and the Yehudim who migrated to the Levant set the stage for the modern-era conflict. The areas of the British Mandate occupied by the Arabs and Yehudim, as given by the cited source, are shown to the right. Note the historical boundaries of ancient Israel in use on the map. The coexistence of the Yehudim and Arabs became more troubled when Israel declared its independence from the mandated territory, as was promised by the Balfour Declaration. The area had been under United Nations administration when Israel declared its independence, thus creating an Israeli state in May of 1948. The UN had a plan to partition the territory, as shown below. However, the Arab League of Nations refused to accept the plan, according to the current source, and urged Arabs in the region to flee to the Arab countries around the Levant because they were going to attack Israel and eliminate the Israelis. It was not Arab residents in the area that attacked the Israelis. 1948 Arab-Israeli War, an existential war fought between Israel and Arab forces from Egypt, Transjordan, Jordan, Iraq, Syria, and Lebanon. The war formally began on May 15, 1948, and ended on July 20, 1949, although it followed a civil war that began after the passage of United Nations Partition Plan on November 29, 1947. After the war ended, Israel still existed, but Jordan controlled the West Bank of the Jordan River, and Egypt controlled the area known as the Gaza Strip, where Gaza City is located. As time passed, the Arab population in the West Bank decided to take action on their own to eliminate Israel because the Arab League was not acting. These Arabs were not Jordanians, Egyptians, Syrians, or Lebanese. They were displaced by the war against Israel and were still under the rule of another entity. Rather than pursue the partition plan to create a state alongside Israel, they chose to attack Israel with the Arab League nations. Thus was formed the Palestinian Liberation Organization, PLO. But they didn't want liberation from Jordan or Egypt, they wanted the destruction of Israel. The attempts of the PLO and Arab League members to cripple and destroy Israel led to the Six-Day War, in 1967. Six-Day War, or Arab-Israeli War of 1967, war between Israel and the Arab countries of Egypt, Syria, and Jordan. Palestinian guerrilla attacks on Israel from bases in Syria led to increased hostility between the two countries. A series of miscalculations by both sides followed. Syria feared that an invasion by Israel was forthcoming and appealed to Egypt for support. Egypt answered by ordering the withdrawal of UN peacekeeping forces from the Sinai Peninsula and by moving troops into the area. Amid increasingly belligerent language from both sides, Egypt signed a mutual defense treaty with Jordan. Israel, surrounded and fearing an Arab attack was imminent, launched what it felt was a preemptive strike against the three Arab states on June 5, 1967. Israeli forces captured the Sinai Peninsula, Gaza Strip, West Bank of the Jordan River, Old City of Jerusalem, and the Golan Heights. The areas captured by Israel are shown on the map below. Eventually, a group calling themselves Hamas wrested control of the refugee Arabs, created by the Arab League nations. From the late 1970s, activists connected with the Islamist Muslim Brotherhood established a network of charities, clinics, and schools and became active in the territories, the Gaza Strip and West Bank, occupied by Israel after the 1967 Six-Day War. In Gaza, they were active in many mosques, while their activities in the West Bank generally were limited to the universities. The Muslim Brotherhood's activities in these areas were generally non-violent, but a number of small groups in the occupied territories began to call for jihad, or holy war, against Israel. In December 1987, at the beginning of the Palestinian Intifada, Arabic Intifa, shaking off, uprising against Israeli occupation, Hamas, which also is an Arabic word meaning zeal, was established by members of the Muslim Brotherhood and religious factions of the PLO, and the new organization quickly acquired a broad following. In its 1988 charter, Hamas maintained that Palestine is an Islamic homeland that can never be surrendered to non-Muslims and that waging holy war to wrest control of Palestine from Israel is a religious duty for Palestinian Muslims. This position brought it into conflict with the PLO, which, in 1988 recognized Israel's right to exist. Here we have the term Palestine used and most likely meant to include the entire Levant, not just the coastal area of Gaza. Certain Arabs never wanted a partition plan with Israel existing as a nation alongside a Palestinian nation for the Arab population from the area, the refugee families, including those of the West Bank and Gaza. In an attempt to reach peace, Israel withdrew settlements from the Gaza Strip. Israel's disengagement from Gaza in 2005, unilateral withdrawal of all Israeli security forces and settlements from the Gaza Strip in August-September 2005. The withdrawal also included the evacuation of 4 Israeli settlements in the West Bank, but the vast majority of settlements in the West Bank remained unaffected. The disengagement plan garnered significant controversy, especially after Hamas, a militant organization hostile toward Israel, took control of the Gaza Strip in 2007. The conflict of Hamas with Israel eventually led to an attack on Israeli civilians in 2023. One source concluded the Hamas attack was an act of genocide. This article analyses the October 7, 2023 Hamas attack on Israel through the lens of the Genocide Convention, arguing that these actions constitute genocide under international law. Drawing on international case law, the analysis demonstrates how Hamas actions meet both the physical element and specific intent requirements for genocide, evidenced by its ideology, systematic policies and leadership statements. The article also examines how reverse accusations of genocide against Israel have functioned as a rhetorical shield to deflect recognition of Hamas' own genocidal actions. It analyses the legal implications for state parties and the international community. The article continues. While the events of October 7 are well known in Israel and much of the Western world, it remains necessary to describe them briefly. On October 7, 2023, thousands of armed Hamas terrorists tore down large parts of the Gaza security perimeter and invaded southern Israel. The invasion was accompanied by a barrage of thousands of rockets fired at Israel. Hamas' highly trained terrorist fighters breached over 30 points in the 40-mile security fence, using an array of technologies and tactics. Hamas terrorists also crossed the barrier into Israeli territory using paragliders. The terrorists split up, conquering and taking control of over 20 Israeli towns. Terrorists also attacked the Nova Music Festival near the town of Re'im. Their goal was to murder as many Jews as possible. During that day, over 1,200 Israelis were tortured, mutilated and massacred, including women, children and the elderly, and over 200 were abducted back to Gaza. Footnote 77, for a description of the events, see Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Hamas-Israel Conflict 2023, Key Legal Aspects, November 2, 2023. Comparatively, the October 7 attack was the most deadly in Israel's history and the third most lethal attack in modern history. Footnote 78. Hamas' murderous attack was also accompanied by sexual violence and rape. According to a report issued by the Association of Rape Crisis Centers in Israel, systematic sexual assaults took place at the site of the Nova Festival, kibbutzim and villages, IDF army bases and against hostages held in captivity. Many of these assaults were carried out by multiple perpetrators and in front of family members. Women at the festival who tried to escape were hunted down and then assaulted. The report also notes evidence of tying and binding, as well as the mutilation of the sexual organs of girls, women and men. Footnote 79. A report by the UN Office of the Special Representative of the Secretary-General on Sexual Violence in Conflict summarized its findings after a 2.5-week mission to Israel. Footnote 80. The reported acts of Hamas are far worse than those described in the article above. More from the article. As the ICJ and international tribunals have consistently held, genocidal intent can be inferred from both direct evidence and patterns of conduct. In Hamas' case, the systematic nature of the attacks, their careful planning, coordinated execution across multiple locations and deliberate targeting of civilians, provides the first indication of such intent. Based on the information gathered by the mission team from multiple and independent sources, there are reasonable grounds to believe that conflict-related sexual violence occurred during the October 7 attacks in multiple locations across Gaza periphery, including rape and gang rape, in at least 3 locations. Across the various locations of the October 7 attacks, the mission team found that several fully naked or partially naked bodies from the waist down were recovered, mostly women, with hands tied and shot multiple times, often in the head. Although circumstantial, such a pattern of undressing and restraining of victims may be indicative of some forms of sexual violence. The above-mentioned acts clearly fall within Article 2, A, and B, of the Genocide Convention, killing members of the group, Israeli Jews, and causing serious bodily and mental harm to members of the group. The article then goes on to cite another source, Meir Litvak, Martyrdom is Life, Jihad and Martyrdom in the Ideology of Hamas, 2010, 33 Studies in Conflict and Terrorism, pages 716, 717-18, Shaul Bartow, Amas, The Islamic Resistance Movement, in Muhammad Afzal Yupel and Carol M. Cusack, eds. Handbook of Islamic Sects and Movements, Brill 2021, page 379. Quote, in the view of Hamas, the Palestinian-Israeli conflict is not merely a territorial dispute between Palestinians and Israelis, it is first and foremost a war of religion and faith, between Islam and Judaism and between Muslims and Jews. As such, it is portrayed as an unbridgeable dichotomy between two opposing absolutes, as a historical, religious, and cultural conflict between faith and unbelief, between the true religion that supersedes all previous religions, that is, Islam, and the abrogated superseded religion, Judaism. It is a war between good, personified by the Muslims representing the party of God, Hizballah, and the party of Satan, Hizbal Shaitan, represented by the Jews. Consequently, the conflict is considered an existential battle, rather than a dispute over borders, Marakat Wujud wala Hudud. Unquote. Thus, we can conclude that the goal of the Palestinian authorities is not to establish an Arab nation alongside Israel, but to eliminate the Yehudim permanently from the Levant. Israel's response to the Hamas attack is not retaliation, it is an effort to eliminate the cancer of Hamas from the Arab population in the Gaza Strip and thereby eliminate a threat to its existence and the lives of the Yehudim. Protesters who hold signs like the one below are calling for the eradication of Yehudim from the Levant. The river is the Jordan River and the sea is the Mediterranean Sea.